if you clear that. Sure. Sorry, if I'd have known, I would have had to interrupt.
I was just daydreaming.
Well, if you can let me know when we're ready.
Okay. He can't hear, he said. He says he can't hear. Yeah, we're working on it. We're working on it.
Mayor, he's not the quorum anyway, so it doesn't matter.
I'm sorry?
I'm just kidding.
You say that while he can't hear you.
That's right. Don't nobody sign it.
All right.
Set Dr. Trent?
We're ready.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for being here with us tonight. We have roughly 8 agenda items to cover, along with some other announcements. So I will try to speak as loudly as I possibly can. If I take my mask off, it's so that I can project. And I think we're safely distanced here. We will begin this meeting. Today is, of course, Monday, February 7th. Let the record show that all are present and accounted for. And the record should show one with remote participation for this afternoon. We'll begin the meeting with our invocation with Councilmember Josh Berry. So if you would.
Alrighty, let's go ahead and stand. Dear Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for the sunshine outside, and thank you for this time that we can gather together. Just ask, Lord, for wisdom in all the decisions that we make tonight, and that we would give careful consideration to what our colleagues have to say on each one, and what our community has to say, and can't really think of anything else super pressing, Lord. I'm sure there's lots of folks out there that have got things on their mind. I ask that you would be with them and guide them through whatever troubling times they have. In your name, amen.
Amen. Let's pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Councilman Baer. We certainly appreciate that. Let's move on to the rest of tonight's agenda. As I mentioned before, all are present and accounted for, one remote. And we'll move down to item E, which is presentation of the previous minutes for acceptance. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes for the regular meeting January 3rd and the policy work session for January 18th.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? Motion and second to approve the minutes as presented. Any objection to moving the question? Having heard none, all in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand, saying aye. Opposes, same sign. Motion passes. Now let's move down to item F, which we will actually set the agenda for tonight. What we do relative to setting the agenda, the council has already met and discussed those items that are on the agenda at a previous work session. Some of those items we'll simply go through as a consent item. Any item that would like to be discussed by any of the council member, we will certainly pull that agenda item off and discuss that. But at this time, council, if you would move down to item L, which is the approval of the consent agenda. We'll start with item 1, which is amendment to ordinances, section 28, prostitution and related offenses. Consent. Okay, item 2, update to Town Center LCI. Consent. Roseview Brundage basketball court options. That's discussion. Johnson Dean Park amended contractor agreement. Consent. Number 5, Norcross letter art installation. Discussion. Number 6, gallery, Norcross gallery and studio repairs. Discussion on that. Okay, so it looks like number 1 is consent, number 2 is consent, number 3 is discussion, number 4 is consent, 5 is discussion, 6 is discussion.
Here, I'd like to add one on the floor. Gwinnett County Board of Education and lease or real estate agreement, IGA.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. This agenda item has been added. As I said before, I don't like to add any item that's not either time sensitive or fiscally impacting. This one is certainly time sensitive as the board will be meeting to discuss this agenda item. So we have a motion to add this agenda item.
Second.
Have a motion and second to add agenda item 7, which is IGA with Gwinnett County School Board. Any objection to moving that question of adding this to the agenda? Having heard none, all in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand, saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Yes.
Was there a second? Was there a second?
Yes, Councilmember Baird.
Yes.
Getting this.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Councilmember Baird. We do have a motion to accept the agenda as presented. Moving back up to item F. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second to accept the agenda as presented with the amendment. Any objection to moving the question? Having heard none, all in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand, saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Now, I have to ask the question, how are we recording? Okay, all right, there you go. Now, if he objects, make sure I know. Okay, otherwise we're going to move forward. Okay, let's move down to item G, ceremonial presentations. Proclamation in order in memory of Antonio Serrano. We'll move that to, actually, that's Do we have any family members here now?
Yes.
Okay. All family members, okay. Very good. We'll go ahead and present that proclamation now. And I'll read it. And family members, if you will take pictures at the podium in just a second. But this proclamation is on behalf of Antonio Serrano. I'm sure a lot of you here knew him. He was a man that was very active in this community. Oftentimes I would go by his smoker shop and I'd talk to him, and we'd have some really good conversations. He's a man who loved his family and he loved his community, and just an all-around good guy. I can't say enough good things about Mr. Serrano. Another good thing I just have to add in is oftentimes there were people that would come to his shop and they didn't have monies to repair their cars, and he would repair them anyway. That's just the kind of man he was. He loved his family, and he and I, we wept together as he lost his son in a bicycle accident many years ago. I know this man's heart, and he will be sorely missed. Let me read the proclamation. Whereas, on behalf of the City of Norcross, we wish to extend our sincere condolences over the passing of Mr. Antonio Serrano, and we honor his memory by reflecting on his life and commitment to the community. Whereas, born July 16, 1942 in a small town near Mexico City, Mexico, Mr. Serrano was a beloved husband, father, friend, community volunteer with passion and talent for motorcycle racing. Whereas, while working for Yamaha de Mexico in the early 1960s, Mr. Serrano formed and managed the first Yamaha motorcycle team, and afterwards moved on to win countless races and numerous titles in the National Motorcycling Champion in Mexico. Whereas Mr. Serrano married the love of his life, Isabel Pompo, on December 9, 1965. Whereas Mr. Serrano's impressive motorcycling career spanned decades, and among his most notable achievements, he served as team director for the national motorcycling team, representing Mexico in many events around the world. He also formed part of the national team representing Mexico in the International 6 Days Enduro race in 1980 and 1981. He was inducted into the Mexican Sports Confederation Hall of Fame in 1986. Whereas in 1982, Antonio left Mexico to relocate to the United States, and through his lifelong friend and brother-in-law, Pepe Pombo, a renowned race car champion, he transformed his love of racing into automobiles and served as crew chief for Pepe and also for his son Tony. Whereas Mr. Serrano was also active in the City of Norcross, previously serving on the Norcross Downtown Development Authority and co-owner of Magic Mufflers and Brakes in Norcross, Georgia, along with his sons Tony and now Victor. Whereas Mr. Serrano loved his family, preceded all else, and his life was dedicated to the best interests of his family and his community. Now, therefore, we, the mayor and city council of the City of Norcross, Georgia, in memory of Mr. Antonio Serrano and his many contributions of the city and its citizens, do hereby express our deep appreciation for his dedication and progress of this community, and extend to his family our sincere sympathy upon his passing. Family, if you would stand, please. And matter of fact, who's taking the photographs? Then I'll come over to one of these. We'll take pictures.
We have the proclamation.
Okay, we do have the proclamation ready. Absolutely. Very good. I'll present this to the family and to his wife.
Right. Thank you.
Again, thank you all for being here. Would someone like to say something? Yes, okay, we certainly will allow you to talk.
First, thank you very much for the opportunity. Antonio loved his community. He dedicated his life to Mighty Muffler. And I have several stories about people that would go there, wouldn't pay for it. They were in hardship. Don't worry about it. You fix it, come back whenever you can pay. That was Tonyo. We call him Tonyo. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
We have other proclamations that we're going to defer. Which ones?
Joey Clayton and John Holland.
Okay.
Joey Clayton we will defer, and John Holland we will just minute.
Okay. Good. And we have an Arbor Day proclamation. That's under Tracy's. Chart.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, the proclamation, we won't, Tracy, if you don't mind, we won't read through the entire proclamation tonight. We do have an event scheduled. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure.
And we'll read it then.
Actually, we'll be celebrating Georgia Arbor Day here in Norcross on Friday, February 18th at 10 a.m. over at Heritage Park, where the Tree Preservation Board will do a ceremonial tree planting, and the mayor will assist in that, and then we'll have tree saplings to give away this year, along with some cookies and a tree talk led by a local arborist. Oh my goodness, I've forgotten his name already. Rick Barnes, the
Rick
Save
Barnes,
Tree.
yes.
Is going to do a discussion on the need for trees. And so we're going to have a nice Arbor Day celebration this year, this one live and in person. So we're excited. I think last year's was virtual.
Yes.
So we're excited to be live and in person with this particular event this year.
Thank you so much, Tracy. We certainly look forward to it.
What time again?
10 a.m.
At Thrasher Park.
No.
That's for the replacement Christmas tree, but the actual Arbor Day event and tree will be planted at Heritage Park.
Oh, at Heritage
The hill
Park.
next to the rectory.
Okay, so we have our dates straight. Council, please attend the new Christmas tree planting, which is 10 o'clock. When?
That's a little bit in the afternoon.
I'm gonna talk about it in a minute.
Right, the one at 10 a.m.
Okay.
is the actual official Arbor Day planting.
Okay, the one at 10, and that's going to be over at the.
Heritage Park.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Okay, I'm going to defer to Dr. Rona, if you would, come up and talk a little bit about this world pandemic that we're in, and share any information that you'd like to share with. Dr. Rona has graciously come to these meetings, and she's taken the time, her own personal time, to come and share information that's pertinent to our learning and understanding concerning COVID. And we wanted information to come from the healthcare professionals and not the politicians, so we know which one you would believe. So we know you believe her. Yes, you may go ahead.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and welcome, council members. I'm happy to be before you again. It's been 2 months, actually, since I've been here. So, do you have a clicker, or do you want me just to tell you when the next one? Okay, sounds good. So, this is where we are today. Over 396 million cases in the world, of course, 5.7 million deaths. You can see much of the United States is red. That just means high transmission levels still. And all of Georgia is equally red, although that looks rather pink there. But in any event, you know, this is all due to Omicron, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But since the last time we were here, there's huge increases over time, was spiking. Just the signature curve of Omicron was this rapid, sharp rise. And we haven't seen quite the fall like we like to see in some of the other countries. There was a plateau, and then there was a rapid fall. We haven't seen that much, although our case numbers are declining. So, but I'll explain why in just a minute. But in Gwinnett County, we're cumulative over 201,000 cases now and 1,586 deaths. Next slide. So, if you could see, you know, on the right-hand side, the curve to the right is way to the right is what we just experienced with Omicron. You can see that the decline is starting to come down now. We were skeptical to call that a true decline for a while, but certainly it's a true decline now. Our cases right now are averaging about 4,000 cases per day. In the last couple of days, they were not even 3 weeks ago over 25,000 cases a day. So it's good to see that. And you can see the difference. The curve just to the left of that is the Delta wave. Now, the Delta was much more deadly than Omicron, but because of sheer numbers, we experienced large amounts of deaths that we're still, you know, seeing, you know, today. Next slide. So these are the case rates currently, and these are really large case rates from the last time we were here. The case rate for Georgia and Gwinnett County was in the 140s. And you can see now these are declining from before. They were as high as 2,500 not long ago. But currently 1,676 cases per 100,000 population in Georgia. The percent positivity, 14-day published, is near 20%. That was over 37% not long ago. And same for Gwinnett County, but currently we're at 1,649 cases and positivity to 18.4. Just the percent positivity last time I was here for Gwinnett County was 4.6%. Pretty different. Next slide. So this is why the Omicron, very, very transmissible, milder disease, but yet again, because of sheer numbers, we're seeing a lot of hospitalizations and that type of thing. You may have heard also that there's a sister variant of Omicron now that we're calling BA2. And we're seeing this in much of Europe. Denmark had astronomical numbers, and we were hoping here in the United States that we wouldn't see what Denmark did, because they basically rose really high, kind of plateaued, started to decline, and then just took off again. And we're not seeing that so much in the United States just yet, but we're very cautious to say and looking for that because we haven't seen a rapid decline from Omicron either. But the good news is that we have identified this in about half of the states in the United States, not in Georgia yet. Last week there were reported about 127 cases of this BA2. They call it, you might have heard it referred to as the stealth Omicron. And that's because it doesn't have the marker on the PCR test that the original Omicron did. So we have an indicator on our test itself that it was Omicron, and that's how we can identify the more accurate percentage of it. But the good news is that our vaccine does work against this, and the better thing is that the boosters have been found to be real important, which I'll mention in a minute. Next slide. So this is what our hospitals look like today. And 3 weeks ago, this was all red except for the far right, which is the green. That's our ventilator status. So these are all Gwinnett County hospitals. And Piedmont East Side is still pretty much in trouble across the board, but we're really happy to see some opening ER beds on the far left. And then there's critical care beds, and then the med surge floor, and then overall hospital beds. So we're still very, very full in our hospitals in Gwinnett. And we're starting to see some increase in ventilator use, but certainly not critical to where there's a shortage or anything. And again, the best news is that we're starting to see declines in hospitalizations already. Next slide. So this is basically back in December, 4 weeks in December. And so really what we're looking at here are still more Delta-related deaths, because as you remember, it was only right before Christmas that we started taking off with Omicron. But you can see that the deaths by, vaccination status, the unvaccinated is most hospitalizations and deaths have occurred in the unvaccinated. And the primary series, which full vaccinated, you can see that the booster actually really seemed to help, which is one reason why the CDC changed the recommendation from 6 months down to 5 months in order to get more people boosted. Next slide. This says the same thing. This is from October to November. Again, unvaccinated rates of deaths are much, much higher than the vaccinated and the boosted. Next slide. And so this is where you can see the benefit of the boosters. The red is the fully vaccinated people, and this is through December into January. And the unvaccinated is the top number, but the gray at the very bottom are those who are fully vaccinated with the booster. So you can see the definite benefit there. And these are for COVID cases by positive test. Next slide. And again, these are the same things with hospitalizations. And you can see again that peak with Omicron on the far right. But again, less people who are vaccinated. The vaccine has really done its job. It prevents hospitalization and deaths. We have had breakthrough cases, and I've got some data if you're interested in all that. But basically, the vaccine itself doesn't prevent infection, but it definitely limits hospitalizations and deaths. And the booster is really important, as you can see. Next slide. So for vaccinations, we have had over 500 million doses given in just the United States alone. So I say that because it's really important we get this out. This vaccine is safe. It is very safe, and it's shown to be effective as well. In Gwinnett County, we've had almost 1.3 million doses given. 57% of Gwinnett County's overall population is fully vaccinated. 59% of our eligible population, which is greater than 5 years old. 55% for Georgia. Next slide. Next slide. So our black population is around 50% of our black population has received at least one dose, compared to 53% of our Caucasian. Asian populations, 87%, our Hispanic population, 43%. So we have a lot of work still to do with our Hispanic population. More on the vaccination event in just a minute. Next slide. So the booster doses now, Pfizer and Moderna are both approved, fully approved outside of the emergency use authorization for 18 and older. But Moderna is approved for 5 months of the booster dose also. Pfizer is the only one that's for 5 years old and older. They changed again the booster recommendation at 5 months. Johnson & Johnson is still 2 months. And we are expecting 6 month and older children to be eligible for vaccine under the emergency use authorization at a much smaller dose, hopefully this month. Next slide. So isolation guidelines, I just wanted to mention these to you. They changed, the CDC changed this, so for isolation you stay for 5 days, and then if you're feeling better and no fever, then you can wear a mask for 5 days. I wanted to kind of set a best practice in front of you about how to use our testing. So in the very beginning, when you're not feeling well and you have symptoms, the best thing to do is get a PCR test, because the rapid test may be negative, may be falsely negative, right, early on in the disease. So the PCR test is really the gold standard diagnostic test. So if you think you've got COVID, get a PCR test to make sure, and then stay isolated for 5 days. And then the best practice is really to get a rapid test or a home test before you leave isolation at 5 days. Because a lot of people will still be positive at 5 days, and we don't want to transmit this virus. And so you get a rapid test. You don't use a PCR for that, because that PCR test can stay positive for 90 days, right? So you get a rapid test, and if that test is negative at 5 days, then you can go about your way back to work with a mask, okay, if you can wear a mask. People who cannot wear a mask, like under 2 years old, that type of thing, have to stay in isolation for 10 days. Next slide. So I wanted to just show you some kind of cool things that we're doing. We're using GIS maps in our health department to find out who's been vaccinated, and really kind of down to the census tract to really push our efforts toward people who need vaccines. So in Gwinnett County, you can see these are all people who have received at least 1 dose. Back one. Yeah. And so you can see, go back one. Again. Anyway, you saw that pretty much the entire Gwinnett County has the whole, you can even see 85 and 316 go through there. But you can see the vaccine is pretty much throughout our county. Next slide. So then what we were able to do is find out, these are Caucasian individuals, where they live and what percentage of the people living in these specific census tracts have been vaccinated. So the blue are 100% or 80% and more, so you really want to focus on red areas, which are 0 to 20% of the areas that are less vaccinated. And then the next one, of course, is orange, which is 20 to 40%. So right now, with this demographic, we can go to those orange areas and try to really push vaccines in that area. But I want you to pay attention to how this changes with demographics. Next slide. So these are our Asians. See how small numbers of orange there is. And that's because 85% of the Asian population is vaccinated. Next slide. And this is our African American or our black population. And you can see the red area at the top, but that's a big focus. And much of the eastern side of our county is very less populated than the other parts of our county. But nonetheless, it still is a percentage, and so you can look. But to change that red to orange is about 34 vaccines. Okay, but nonetheless, so that's the first place we go to, and then all the other orange places are ways that we can go into those areas and push our mobile units to try to get more and more people vaccinated to make a difference in our county. Next slide. And then this is Hispanic. See how much orange there is there? So it's all reflective of the percentages of the population that we've been able to vaccinate. But anyway, I wanted to show you that this is what we're doing. We can actually pull up numbers on all these census tracts and find out how many people are in these areas so that we can move our mobile units and really maximize events and education and different things like that, using some equity navigators that we've gotten funding for to do in our county. Next slide. So we do have a nice event coming up on February 26th. It's going to be at Lenora Park. It's called Healthy, Vibrant, and Vax. It's put on by Gwinnett County. And we will have incentive cards. It'll be another $100 per vaccine. Hopefully we'll have the 6-month and older population approved by then, and if so, then bring a baby. The baby will get a vaccine or an incentive card too. But in any event, it'll be 9 from 7 on that day. No appointments necessary. We really want people to walk in, and we're really highly promoting this in Gwinnett County as well. Next slide. I just wanted to show you one last thing about, this is our flu. The red line is this year's flu vaccine. Not vaccine, this year's epidemic, influenza epidemic, not pandemic. And you can see the gold line on the bottom was last year's. And so you can see that we have more of an influenza activity this year than we did before, but not like prior years in 2019 and 18, so on the slides. Okay, next slide. And I think that's it. So any questions? I know you got a big agenda, so I don't want to take much more of your time.
Thank you so much for taking time to be here with us. Council, we'll open the floor for any questions for Dr. Serrano at this time.
No questions, just thank you very much for all you're doing. We appreciate it.
No, thank you. Pleasure being here, and if you guys need anything, let me know.
Dr. Serrano, I had one question on the BA2 virus. Is it as, did I hear you say that it was as contagious as the Omicron, or?
Yes, so the BA2, BA1 is the original Omicron, the sister is BA2.
Yeah.
And so BA2 is predicted to be 1.5 times more transmissible than the original one, which was really highly transmissible, as you know. And so we do expect it to be, if it sets here like it has in other countries, that we'll see another spike. However, our booster doses of vaccines still work against this, obviously, and so that's a big thing. The good news is that if you've had Omicron before, if you just had it, you should be protected from BA2. They are expecting that there'll be some cross coverage there, so that's good. The best person to be around is someone who's been vaccinated, had their booster, and had COVID recently. Those are really highly protected people.
The age group 5 to 12, I know you said the boosters are approved to age 12. Do you know what the status of age 5 to 12 on the boosters, considering your data, where's that? Because that seems to be a very transmissible group for everything else, so I assume they're transmissible for this as well.
No, absolutely, and in fact, I do have that data. For our 5-year-olds, 5 to 11-year-olds, 14% of the child population in Georgia is fully vaccinated now, only 14%, and 19% has 1 dose. And we don't have information on how many of those have had boosters. Well, the boosters are not approved in the 5 to 11 years old anyway. They are for 12 and older.
And they're working on that. Have you heard anything in terms of where the status of that is, or because they're working on the booster for them? I know they're working on the 6-month.
Right.
But I didn't hear anything a lot of booster for that age group yet.
No, I haven't heard anything about that yet either. I'm sure it'll come. But remember, they just received the vaccine too.
Yeah.
And that's one reason why it didn't, the length of time, I should have brought a slide, but there's a slide that shows the length of time from when you're fully vaccinated, and it's really that 5-6 months later. And so there's not a focus too much right now on getting the 5 to 11-year-olds who just received, not long ago received approval for the original vaccine. So I expect that by 5 months after that was released, we'll probably see that too.
And not specific to coronavirus or its variants, what's other, since we have your audience here, what's other health crisis that you're seeing in our county that we can be aware of as council members?
Great, I'm glad you asked that. First of all, we have, Gwinnett County is one of 57 jurisdictions in the United States that has the highest new diagnosis rate of HIV. And so we're working with metro counties and CDC, and we've received some funding to really make a difference on that. And there are 4 things that we can do that will end the AIDS epidemic, because we have medicines right now that we can give to people who are HIV negative but at high risk for it. We can give them medicine that will essentially prevent them from getting it, right? And we also have medicine that if we can get people who are HIV positive and we get them on medicine and keep them on medicine, then once they're on medicine, their levels of the virus are so low that it's not transmissible. And so by those 2 things, using the medicines at the most high-risk people, promoting education, testing everybody, and also keeping people who are in, HIV positive in treatment. And part of that is you got to address their housing, their job status, their transportation. I mean, there's a whole lot of barriers to care. And also just to change the stigma of what it's like to be HIV positive, right? In today's world, being HIV positive is no different than having hypertension or diabetes. Totally manageable. And it needs to be looked at that way. So that's one thing. And the other major thing we're looking at too is we've got a very, very high infant mortality rate in Gwinnett County. And so we're really looking at ways that we can change that, looking at some some prenatal care models that look more at group, and then, of course, we were successful at getting the legislator to change the Medicaid coverage postpartum or after you deliver from 6 weeks now to 6 months. And there's a bill up this season too, or this session, to change that to 1 year. So we're hoping that that changes. That'll make a big difference.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rowe.
Yeah.
I certainly appreciate you taking time to be with us.
Of course, anytime. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, at this time, we will, unless we have an additional question. Okay. At this time, we will move to those comments from citizens. I think there's some of you that would like to speak at this time on an issue. You certainly can come to the podium and give your name and your address, and we extend that invitation now.
May I remove my mask?
Yes, you. If you would pull the mic down just a little bit so that we can make sure that it's recorded and
Can you hear me?
our internet audience hears. Yes.
Hi everyone, my name is Carla Bodinen. Some of you may already recognize me or know me from my work with the Latino community here in Norcross since 2015. So first I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to address you, Mayor, Council, Ms. Lane. And I'd like to talk about Untitled Park and bringing pickleball courts to Norcross. Yay. So first, let me tell you, I used to work, I do community outreach with the Latino community, and when I found pickleball 2 years ago, it stole my heart, and that's what I've been doing for 2 years. Presently, I am an ambassador for Gwinnett County for USA Pickleball. Now, we have just recently started our Diversity and Inclusion Committee so that we can showcase pickleball for what it is. It's a very easy to play, low impact, very popular sport, but it hasn't really made its way into all communities. And this is one sport that can, because you can remain competitive across age, across gender, across size. I'm very petite, and I made it to nationals last year in California. And one thing I hope to do is eventually make my way back to Norcross and bring this sport to the Latino families I was working with. So going back to USA Pickleball, we just created the Diversity Inclusion Committee. I am assistant chair. My competition partner, Liz Hollingsworth, is the chair. And our focus this year in the Atlantic South region, that's 4 states, is bringing outreach to Black and Latino communities and showcasing pickleball for what it is. Number one, there is so many health benefits involved in pickleball. You're out there, again, I said it's low impact. The court is much smaller than a tennis court. The ball, I'm going to show you in just a moment, is a plastic ball, not a rubber ball. That's very springy. And it's a small court. One tennis court can accommodate 2 pickleball courts. So just want to show you what a typical pickleball player would look like coming into the court. We have these backpacks. You'll just see us come in. And let me show you what a paddle looks like. This is a paddle, and it's a wiffle ball. So basically, that's it. And I will say something, I will say one thing. Peachtree Corners, where I live, and Norcross is a dead zone for pickleball. I recently, meaning today, just got hired by the city of Alpharetta to be an instructor, and I also work for Cobb County. So this is very exciting news. Just a few short points about the big picture. Pickleball is the fastest growing sport in the country. And presently, one of the major tournaments that comes to Atlanta rents space from Lifetime Fitness because there are no public courts to hold these major events. The second major tournament that comes to Atlanta is Atlanta Metro, and it's Griffin, city of Griffin, where I've been many times. Griffin, Opelika, Macon, these are where the majority of players go to spend their money, stay overnight, visit restaurants, and play. Really, a venue with 20 courts will attract competitions and competitors. So that's the big picture. In addition to the health and well-being, facts and figures, which at some future opportunity, if you would allow me, I would love to come and speak on that. Economic development, impact, there are numbers out there now. But like I told you, this area is a dead zone. And it's wonderful if you were to get a couple of courts. So the more precise picture here with Brundage Park, the city of Hampton also had a similar issue where they had the children's fountain next to the basketball courts, and there was a lot of language and just events that they didn't want to have the basketball court so close to all the kids. So they moved the basketball court and put pickleball courts there. And that's been so successful, they're converting their tennis courts as well. So I could get more information if you like, Mayor.
As you're wrapping up, you got roughly 30 seconds.
Yes. So I guess in these 30 seconds, I want to tell you that bringing pickleball is a safe bet and a very, it's going to bring a lot of promise, not only in the crowd that it attracts, but you have my commitment. I've been working with the city of North Bronx for a long time. You have my commitment to use my space as co-chair of the Diversity Inclusion Committee to make sure that people who utilize the park will have the opportunity to learn to play pickleball and to use the courts that are brought there. So I have cards, if that will help, and thank you for this opportunity. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Well, we won't go into a discussion, this is just for presentations.
Okay. May I?
Yes, you certainly may.
We have to check one thing.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so much.
Again, Carla, thank you so much for being here, and we certainly appreciate the informative discussion on pickleball. I don't think we've had that before. Thank you. Thank you.
Would you like me to stick around for questions after the meeting is over?
If you'd like.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next, we have citizens that would like to comment.
Krista DeKreiger, 378 Autry Street, right across from Brundage Park. So I appreciated that research and enthusiasm about pickleball. I attended the policy meeting about 3 weeks ago and finally sent you all my email that I've been writing for 3 weeks, which you could tell from the length of it and detail, hopefully. I apologize for the lateness. It was right before heading out for the cemetery tour, which was packed yesterday. Loved that. Do you want to say, I personally love the idea of pickleball. I love something else coming into that park as a citizen, as a person who lives right across the street from the park and has seen different activities that take place there and the fun sounds that can be there. For my Parks, Green Space and Trails Commission hat that I also wear, also love the idea that we are doing more research and slowing things down, because I think there are a ton of possibilities that as your commission we're looking at across the board with all the parks, that to get in things that really meet the needs of our current citizens and community and can bring safety and soundness for the neighbors who live by the parks, as well as the children and people playing in them. I know Tixie Fowler is our chairperson, and she also sent a follow-up email today. She wasn't able to attend, but she's the chairperson for PG&T, and I just wanted to make sure you received her email as well. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Yes.
Hello, my name is Kathleen Allen, and I live at 297 Longview Drive. I'm here tonight to speak to you proactively about Rossi Brundage Park. You well know that I have experience listening to those impacted by city council votes when their voices weren't heard beforehand. Before you make any changes to the basketball court, I urge each and every one of you to go talk and, more importantly, listen to those who play basketball there. Please do not just listen to those who email you or who come here before you to complain about the park and the court, but who do not actually take advantage of this public good. Rossi Brundage has the only full-size public basketball court in the city. None of our other parks have a full-size court. This is a public good that has been and continues to be used by thousands of Norcross area kids, teens, and adults, day in and day out, week over week, year after year. It is a public good that those who do not enjoy, do not partake of, are asking you to get rid of. And I think that's bad public policy. I am truly sensitive to neighbors' concerns for their safety of themselves and their property in light of fatal shootings that have occurred there. But taking a public good away from the many who enjoy it because of the rare actions of a very few is not serving the good of our entire community. A year ago on Thanksgiving, a police officer shot at a neighbor in the yard of his house across the street from mine. While neither was injured, it was nevertheless a traumatic incident for the homeowner and all of us nearby. Yet we never came before this council to ask you to get rid of the Norcross Police Department, or even to downsize it. We recognize that the split-second decision of a young officer on a dark night was not representative of the behavior of the entire department, or even his own over the course of all of his days and nights of service to our city. Likewise, the shootings by a tiny few of the thousands of Norcross and area residents who play basketball at Rossi Brundage are understandably horrific for the victims and traumatic to their loved ones and families and the community by the park. But it is not a reason to get rid of this public good that serves so many so well. Public policy research has shown that access to welcoming public spaces and participation in sports both reduce crime. They don't increase it. When we spoke to you years ago about the impact of the city's ordinance to limit the length of stay and require residents of extended stays to register with the city, Mayor and Council listened to those living in the motels, and you swiftly removed those sections of the ordinance, keeping the parts that actually addressed crimes occurring on those properties. And I thank you for that. Furthermore, you invested in GET and then the Motel to Home programs to develop positive solutions for our communities. I ask you to support your excellent police chief and his team as they prevent, investigate, and solve crime. Make the investments that are needed therein. Perhaps more overhead cameras like in Thrasher Park, or if it didn't, attract vigilantes, you could live stream to YouTube, because I know plenty of kids who want to go home, rewind, and show off that cool slam dunk. You get out of padlock at closing time, the way that we lock other city facilities at the end of the day. You could put in proper bleachers. All of those would be investments in safety and improvements to the park that would build it up rather than break it down. Dismantling a full-size basketball court is different than rewriting an ordinance. Please, before you cut it down to a half-size court or put in a pickleball court, which would also perhaps annoy those neighbors because of the noise inherent in pickleball, please go to the basketball court on different days of the week at different times of day and night and ask the players and the spectators what they get out of this public good. Ask them what impact cutting the court in half would have. Ask them what they are willing to do to make it a safer place for them to play and for people to live around. Then let's make it a community investment. Investing in a pickleball court in the city of Norcross is a great idea, but Rossi Brundage is not the location for tournaments. There's not parking, and you know the neighbors aren't going to like that. Don't just make the many suffer for the actions of the very few. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen, for those comments. Is there anyone else? Yes, you may come to the podium and your name, address.
Good evening, everyone. Mayor, my name is Penny Poole, and I am a former member of Norcross. I live in Chapter, Georgia. I am a part of Norcross because I come and our organization gives a festival every year in downtown Norcross. So we are invested and involved in this community. I am president of the Gwinnett NAACP, and not only is Rossi Brundage Park a powerful place in the community, but this community, which is over 150 years old, that has developed around Hopewell Church, is a place where people hold family reunions, a place where families come and have barbecues. It's a place of gathering. Most of all, it is a safe space in the community. And as the prior person who came up before me, everything that she said, I want to say ditto. This full court basketball court is not just a place for people to come, but it's a socialization. It is a safe space. Even though there has been crime there, like any place in Norfolk where crime has occurred, those places have not been closed. When there's a shooting at a bank, or if there is people who are making disturbances at other locations in Norfolk, the grocery store, the immediate action of the community and the police is not to close it down. This would be a prime opportunity to see what is exactly happening. The Rossi Brundage Park and the full court basketball court is a unique place, and it takes certain spaces to provide these facilities. And just the pickleball court, it can be in Best Branch, it could be in Piggyville Park, it could even be in Dan Watts. It is such a portable event. It can be set up in many different areas, whereas a full court basketball court cannot. As a 27-year member of Hopewell Baptist Church, as someone who is vested in this community to bring safe family fun in safe spaces, as being a part of the NAACP, Gwinnett, the president, who knows that for children, families, and community to thrive, there must be these spaces where they are welcome. And I hope along with the police force, they find out what happened during these prior crimes, what those situations were, so that they can be resolved. So today we want to stand for families. We want to stand for historic Norcross natives, the Browns, the Simpsons, the Pools, because this place has been in their family forever. So please, please, we implore you, keep the full court basketball court, keep it for the community, family reunions, gatherings, picnics. All these things are necessary to a thriving community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Poole, for those comments. We certainly appreciate you being here with us tonight. Do we have anyone else that would like to speak at this time on any issues from our citizens? If not, let's move to comments by the council. Do you have anything you'd like to share, any activities that you participated in that you'd like to share? You were at the Korean festival?
Yes, I got invited to the Korean installation of the president on Saturday, and from that invite, I got invited to the Year of the Tiger celebration. Yeah, that was fun. So I had a cultural explosion over the weekend.
It's a great experience. It was good food too. Yeah. Council, anything else? Okay, we'll move to comments by city manager.
Two quick announcements. One is, Mayor, you were starting to get in before, but at the same day that we have our Georgia Arbor Day celebration, we're also planning to install the replacement Christmas tree, a Theodore cypress, 24-foot, and don't have an awful lot of people in the room, so we're not spreading it too widely, but approximately 11 a.m. on Friday is the anticipated planting of that tree. So after we finish the Arbor Day celebration, we'd like to come down to Thrasher Park, unless there's any unexpected delays, which is why that's not going to be our official Arbor Day event. We did try to tie it into Arbor Day, so we have that opportunity. Secondly, we received about a week ago, I'm going to take my mask off because this is a long title, the Governor's Public Safety Officials and First Responders Supplemental Grant, which is a grant of $1,000 per police officer. So we're in the process of arranging to make payments to our police officers. And that's courtesy of the state funding, I believe, from the ARPA grant. That's it. Thank you.
That's it. Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
May I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
You know, ever since I saw the news about this replacement tree, which is really exciting, I've been wondering what can we do to prevent it from falling over again. And obviously stringing guy wires down from it would be a problem. But I do recollect at some point coming across some kind of like underground staking system where you put stakes in the ground that go across the root ball.
Okay.
And so I just wanted to share that was in the back of my head, that maybe when we...
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's my concern, is that the next tree topples over as well.
Right.
We're very fortunate to get one of that size. Mary Beth is back for 15 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Bear. And also, prevention is certainly worth a pound of cure, right?
City Manager, the financial summary, are you able to share us an update on the financial summary this meeting or next?
I will be able to. The audit is in the final stages right now, so I technically don't have the final numbers for last year. But again, there's some corrections we're doing to current year activity. But yes, I'll get you one actually this week, and then I can talk about it at our next meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move to public hearings. Tracy, if you come up, we will.
This is a public hearing on the noise ordinance. It's an item by committee.
The noise? I hear a horn.
We teed that up specifically. But this is an item worked on by the city attorney's office, Norcross Police Department, a little bit of help from community development, because legal said that this could be seen as a zoning. So that's why we're having a public hearing as opposed to this being a consent agenda item. And then a little bit of information probably from the city manager regarding landscape noise. But the crux of the changes that Bill or Police Chief Grogan's going to come and talk about were that this particular change addresses restrictions regarding noise produced by consumer fireworks, which I think we all get a lot of complaints about. And then a new section 26-21J that addresses engine, muffler, and/or exhaust system noise. So those are Police Chief's two big items. So I'll turn the conversation over to him as part of the public hearing.
Just briefly on both of those two items that this all stemmed from, they both, I don't know that I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, but they are in line with what Gwinnett County also has, as well as many surrounding jurisdictions. So John Underwood, when he crafted this, so that it would be somewhat seamless across the area. People weren't guessing from one jurisdiction to the next. So specific to mufflers, that's Gwinnett County's exact same language. And then fireworks is the same. So just so everyone knows, the state law for fireworks, it permits it on certain days. It doesn't prohibit it on any other days. We cannot change those days that state law permits it. That's your typical holidays. But we can prohibit it in general ordinance from any other day. And that's what this is. Any questions? I believe there may be an additional...
Well, just one thing that I know Councilmember Hickson has raised is the question of when noise starts. And since your last meeting, I just kind of randomly looked at some other Gwinnett communities, as well as an article in the AJC that talked about Fulton communities. And the one thing I noticed is we're pretty late in terms of when we allow noise to start on weekdays. We have 8 o'clock. we don't benchmark against the city of Cumming, which is at the other end of the spectrum. They allow noise to start at 6 a.m. on weekdays, but if you look around northern Fulton and around Gwinnett, you tend to find 7 or 7:30. I didn't find any, and it wasn't an exhaustive search, but I didn't find any that started at 8 o'clock. So if there is concern, and I see Councilmember Hickson on TV now, the one thing I would say is you could consider starting at 7:30 versus 8. We do our best to comply with the 7:30 start time as opposed to now we start at 7, even though the community starts at 8. I would still suggest you leave an exemption for the city because there may be circumstances where we need to be able to start earlier in the morning and we'll be able to go later at night. And those are the types of circumstances you can't fully anticipate. But again, if there's an interest in, that was not what the chief brought forward, but I know that was part of the discussion. If you wanted to consider something that is a compromise between when we start making noise, blowing leaves around the downtown businesses to clear up the downtown or around here because of our municipal court or other places, you could consider moving the time for the public to 7:30. And as I said, we try to accommodate that same time with rare exception.
Okay, at this time we will, this is a public hearing. We will extend the invitation for the public to weigh in. If there's someone that's here tonight that would like to ask a question concerning this issue, we certainly ask you to come to the podium and give your name and address and say question. Second call, third call. Now, we will move to discussion or public hearing, public comment on this issue now closed. We will move to discussion by council at this time.
Mr. Mayor, one of the things I'd like to explore the possibility of is us looking at exceptions to this noise ordinance for electric lawnmowers, electric battery-powered, leaf blowers and things like that, which are a lot lower noise, and it would have the double impact of also encouraging less pollution, less and more use of electric-powered products, which for the most part benefits the city as we are the electric provider for the city. So it might be something worth looking into as to how we can incorporate various incentives to use electric-powered landscaping equipment. For example, a lawnmower, you can hardly hear an electric lawnmower. 30 feet away from it, it's basically sounds, you can hardly hear it at all. So that would change dramatically the noise issues if we could find a way to incentivize within this ordinance.
Other questions amongst council?
No question for me. I think that's something that we probably should explore. I know one of my neighbors has an electric lawnmower, and I can't even. I only know he's cutting the grass if I go outside and look at it cutting it. You can't even hear it. And I think technology has changed significantly. I think when I first started cutting grass in my yard, and I'm not that old, but it was you had to plug in and drip a cord across your lawn, which was not ideal. And now they have these batteries that you can plug up. So if we want to make an exception or incentivize it to Councilmember Gaynor's point, maybe earlier start times if you're using equipment that's electric power, I think it would be too hard to manage if it was a decibel thing. But I'd like to investigate that, and I don't know if the city manager, chief, or Tracy have any thoughts on that as well.
Chief?
I don't think, it's still 300 feet, so I don't know that if you can't hear it, it wouldn't be a violation. So that would be the incentive to having one. Because it's pretty specific in ordinance as far as it talks about the different landscape maintenance devices. And if it can't be heard
Chief, if you
within
would come
300
forward the
feet.
microphone.
Oh.
That way. Councilmember Hickson will maybe.
Yeah, so time restrictions still apply to landscape maintenance, and I'm just looking at subsection F here. But in any residential zoning district or in areas within 300 feet of any residential zoning district from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. But it's still required that it has to make noise. So noise generating is what's important. So if it doesn't make noise, there wouldn't be a violation.
It might be something we could be more explicit about, just to make it clear that there's an exception here, or there's an opportunity here, rather than just leaving it for people's own discovery.
Okay.
Any other comments? Councilmember Hickson, you're muted. Did you want to make a comment? I don't know if. Okay, not this time. Okay. Any other comments from council? All right, Chair will entertain a motion at this time.
So moved, Mayor.
The motion is to, if you would clarify the motion.
Pull it up. I'd like to make a motion to approve an amendment to Chapter 26, Article 2, entitled Noise Control by adding a new section 26-21D and section 26-21J with the following enacting clauses as stated.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve the amendment as stated. Any objection to moving the question? Okay. Councilmember Hickson, if you would unmute, we'll see if we can't get you through.
I apologize. I just want to verify that what we're doing is the exact thing that's in our agenda. There's a lot of discussion that I just can't hear, to be frank with you.
Yes, but based on the motion that's been presented so far, it is to accept the agenda item as presented.
Okay, just making sure.
Yes. Okay. Any other questions, council? Have you heard none? All in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. One opposed. Thank you, Councilman. Okay, now let's move down to reports of mayor and council. I don't have any additional reports. This council has some additional things they would like to add other than what's been shared. General announcements, the Valentine's father and daughter dance is Friday, 6:30 to 8:30 at our community center. Valentine's Night to Remember is Saturday, February 12th. Movie Monday, Rocket Man. If you've never been to any of our Movie Mondays, please take advantage of it. A lot of community members just simply come up, eat popcorn and candy, and have a good time there. Georgia Arbor Day celebration has been mentioned. Coffee with Council is set for Saturday, February 19th at Dulce Sueños Cakes. Is that right, Councilmember Gaynor?
Close enough.
Close enough. Okay. Pollinator Workshop, February 26th, and again, Movie Monday again, February 28th. Those are items coming up. Including First Friday, it was a really great First Friday event that we attended. If you've never attended those events, those are really fun. Community comes out and have good food, plenty to eat and drink, and libations, if you will. But just there to have a good time and relax. So if you've never been to one, please take time to attend. Pollinator Workshop, March 26th. All this information is in our city newsletter. Am I right, Dan? She's nodding her head yes. And so you can follow up on all these things that I just mentioned. Board appointments, do we have any board appointments for tonight? Okay, we only have one, so council, what is your pleasure relative to board appointments?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the appointment of the following board member and term as presented. Anna Segura Brechtel, with a term to expire 12/1/2024.
Second. We have a motion by Councilmember Bear, seconded by Councilmember Gaynor. Any further discussion? Having heard none, all, did I?
Pardon me, but,
Okay.
yes, Andrew needs to be up there.
Yep. Councilmember Hickson, we need your picture up there so that we can see you waving yay or nay on these motions. Now, keep in mind, Councilmember Hickson has a young daughter, so sometimes they take precedent. But we will record his vote. All in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And Monique will record Councilmember Hickson's vote. Majority actually has it. Okay, let's move to we've already approved the agenda. I guess we need a motion, Councilmember Bear.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Bear, seconded by Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Myers. Any objection to move the question? Heard none, all in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand saying aye.
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 Opposed, the same sign. Motion passes. Okay, let's move right into the agenda. Beginning with item 3, Rosie Brundage basketball course. Mary Beth and Mike have part of that discussion.
Good evening, Council. Councilmember Hickson, can you hear me?
He maybe had to step away, but
So last meeting, I was told to get the local vendor of ours, which is CBA Sports, and to come back with a new design, which was requested 2 full basketball courts and 1 half basketball court. Keep scrolling to where it gets to the CBA Sports. Just a small print above the first layout. This one? Yes, ma'am. All right, so you all had time to look at it. You all probably had a question how we went from 12 to 98. That was pretty much the first discussion from last previous month. That was pretty much touch up of filling the cracks, putting the coating down, and creating the layout that we decided to narrow it down to only 2 full courts of pickleball and 1 half basketball court. That all ties in of removing the current asphalt and installing concrete sub base. We also discussed about different surfacing that was included in the quote, and then also the stationary pickleball net system, painted lines, and you see option 1. That's everything I pretty much included in. When you scroll down a little that's the actual layout that came back up with from CBA Sports. And if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to ask.
if you would, I'd like, just for clarity, make sure we understand what is option 1, option 2, and CBA proposal. What you just presented is option 1, is that right?
Option 1 is where you all came back and told to come back with. Option 2 is this recommendation from CBA Sports that you wanted to enlarge the court to make it, pickleball court is what I'm referencing to. We want to make it regulation court free as well too, as far as the spacing of clearance for the pickleball court, because there is a clearance footage as well too. But if you want to use the existing court that we do have, that is option one, and also the least amount cost as well too out of the three.
Okay. That's clear to me. Council, David? Okay. Everybody understands the options. That's what I want to make sure we're clear. Council?
Yep. Understand the options.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
So we have a picture there with 2 pickleball courts and a basketball court, but under option 1 and option 2, there's not an option that has that configuration, right?
Option 2, scroll down on it to the, let me see. I'm sorry, scroll back up, I'm sorry.
I'm looking at page 50 of our packet.
Okay, so you notice here, dashes are a light color. So option 1 is the existing court. And if you scroll down to the next one, Monique, you'll see the dash is a lot darker. So when I was talking about option 2, enlarging it, that's going to encroach on the fence. So we'll have to take the fence down and install a new fence in order to fit the regulation courts.
But on page 50, it says option 2 is 3 pickleball courts.
Oh, that's the previous month, it was talking about. So this month is what you all agreed was to come back with a quote for 2 full pickleball courts and 1 half court.
So is there a page in our packet that okay, so page 56, it looks like has options 1, 2, and 3.
And if you look right underneath option 1, 2, and 3, you'll see the different sizes. And the first one is the existing court. If you want to use that, if you wanted to enlarge it, option 2 and 3, you have to take down the fence to correct the square footage of all 3 options.
But on page 56, it doesn't really say what the court would look like under option 1, 2, or 3.
So scroll back down on me. That's option 1, scroll back down. This is option 2 with the darker dashes, showing how the new existing fence will accommodate the new space, along with a fence splitting pickleball courts and half basketball courts.
And then option 3 is 3 pickleball courts?
No, sir, it's the same, it's just a larger. If you look at option 3, you'll see a difference between option 2 and 3.
Okay.
Now, on our agenda, I see option 1, option 2. I don't see identified as option 3.
You talking about like a layout?
No.
Option.
We now have 5 options.
I think it's a little confusing.
2 weeks ago, if I can take a try. So 2 weeks ago, we brought you 2 options that basically clean up the surface, but you have an asphalt surface. And those were ones that I believe could be accommodated with contingency. They were roughly $12,000 a piece. What you asked us to do 2 weeks ago was to come back with a different approach, which basically removes all the existing asphalt. Mike, tell me if I get it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
We put in a new surface. We've asked one vendor that's a local vendor to give us a price. This is entirely new surface. If you look at your backup, you'll see the type of material it is. That gives you the opportunity to change the configuration, the dimension of the court, because you're not constrained by the existing asphalt court. So it's a safer court, it's more absorption. But at this point, you have price tags that will come in 2 cases. Well, option 1 at $82,000 wipes out most of your contingency for the balance of the year. Option 2 comes within about $12,000 of eliminating your contingency for the balance of the year. Option 3 exceeds what's left. Well, option 3 leaves $3,000 in contingency. So my concern would be to pursue these new options where you remove, because these don't even include the cost of removing the asphalt and So if you want to pursue these, I don't know that I would suggest today that you should wake up most of your contingency for the balance of this year.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Gaines.
There's an awful lot we don't know in this. Furthermore, Parks and Green Space really hasn't weighed in on their ideas for the plan. I'd like to move that we put this on the table until such time that Parks and Green Space comes back with a plan, working with the Parks Department to fully vet out what exactly we're looking at and what the community wants. That may be in time for the next budget cycle.
Okay,
So I'm moving that we table this matter.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved, second. It is without discussion to table. All in favor, let it be known by raise your right hand, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign? Okay. The item has been tabled. Thank you so much for the presentation. I would admonish manager and staff to get together, and if we're going to have 5 options, it's important that the public understands these agenda items as well as the council. I think we probably could have done a little bit better job of getting all the information to mayor and council and on the agenda so that it's clear, not clear as mud. Thank you. Okay, let's move to item 5, Norcross Letter Art Installation.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. Hope y'all are doing well. So it's me again to talk about the Norcross art installation piece. And here's an update. First of all, it's been officially paid for. Eric ran a check over there to it, and he got to lay eyes on it and got to see the material and talk to the manufacturer themselves. So I'm real excited about this project and what it looks like. So that's the update on where it stands now. As far as the location, there's been some emails that were shared with me from the council that had a couple suggestions. My understanding is none that are viable, like pieces of land that we actually own yet. And so I am coming to you for some guidance on next steps and where we should place this. What I have told IMG, the manufacturer, is to hold on it, warehouse it, how long can they do? And he said, how long do you want me to? And I said, April. So that's what I said for right now. If it comes earlier, we can put it out earlier, but I just need some guidance from mayor and council. I know some of the suggestions that I had shared previously weren't the right ones, so I just want to see what y'all would like and where I can go from here.
We can certainly open the floor for more discussion or more direction, council.
I'd like to kick it off.
Yes, go ahead.
I know I sent one recommendation at the old library, which I thought was our property. Is it not our property?
It will be, but they're over a month late in transferring it. That was to be transferred under the IGA within 60 days of opening the new library. To my knowledge, they have not yet. They also haven't removed the furniture, which Mary Beth had asked them. We've learned our lesson about letting someone gift us old beat-up furniture that we have to store. So Mary Beth, you want to mention you asked them to?
I was in touch with them last week, and she said they were in the process of moving the furniture out.
Okay.
And that she would get back with me on that.
Let's hear from council.
Yeah, so Mike Ludwizak, county attorney, I've had a couple of emails go to him. He's responded to the first one, but not the second one, because I asked him what the status was of the transfer. He's in charge of that. The earlier response was that they were, they didn't need to do this, they're not required to, but they were doing a survey, and that they were going to transfer it according to the survey. So I sent him another email. I haven't heard back, but I'll keep everybody advised. It's according to the IGA, it's ours. We just have to get our name on
it. So I can't install it.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Fair, go ahead.
I just would like to propose to keep the ball moving forward, that we go ahead and have Ms. Pam figure out what it would look like to put it on that corner, and then we could have all of our ducks in the row for when we actually own the property and put it there.
Very good suggestion. Yes.
Can I get a clarification? Councilmember or Mayor Pro Tem, I think you had two versions. You had one at street level and one at the top of the hill. Is
Yeah,
the one
so-
that you're proposing?
Yeah, I just gave a rough estimate there, but really, if you're at the bus seat and you see there's a corner there, it's right at the corner, kind of at an angle, so if you're driving north on Buford Highway, you could see it crowd, and you could see it straight at you, to your left. It's kind of right there. I mean, I'm trying to think of a piece of property that we already own, or I thought we owned, or we will own, that kind of helps it not be in an area where it may be at risk for children playing on it or get injured. I thought that was a great opportunity to kind of a win-win.
So bottom of the hill.
Bottom of the hill, top of the hill, whatever is engineeringly feasible, but that location is where we're at.
We'll have to look for a 30-foot
We'll
wide.
do our little walk-off again and rub it and stake it.
Yeah,
We
and
can do
then the
that.
other option was not necessarily the corner, but on the side, on the hill, which is a straight line, in case you can't do the angle. My intent there is to investigate that. It was just an idea as I was thinking about it.
And I didn't know we were this close to owning the land, so that makes me feel better understanding that part of it. So sounds like any day.
It could be tomorrow.
Councilmember Bennett.
I just would add two things. Number one, as we figure out what we're going to do with that site, I could certainly see where the letters go could be reconfigured in the future. And secondly, I could see the letters with a little bit of a curve to them, to sort of, not a humongous curve because you wouldn't be able to read it, but I don't think that they have to be an exact straight line. I think probably.
And I don't know. Yeah, because they're separate. If they're separate letters, they could have a small.
You take off the back panel and then you bolt them into the concrete pad.
So the one thing, and I went out there to deliver the check because I wanted to see them, and they're beautiful. But they're designed ultimately that back panel comes off with screws, sheet metal screws. Put bolts through the bottom of each of the letters into a base. Presumably that can be removed and reinstalled someplace else. The only challenge we're going to have is when you permanently put them someplace, you'll put an adhesive between the two pieces of metal, put the screw through it, and the screw will hold it in place, but the adhesive will keep anyone from using a screwdriver to try to remove it back. If we're going to do it temporarily, then we're not going to put that permanent adhesive in place because we're going to want to be able to open it up ourselves and reset it. But that's the only challenge with how it's constructed.
I'm sorry, this is way in the weeds, but there are special safety screws that only a few screwdrivers.
You see those in restrooms, yes.
Right, yeah.
Well, personally, I don't see anybody coming over to take a letter, but maybe I could be wrong.
We could give them a heads up down at the recycling center. No letters.
Okay, it looks like we need to do some more homework. I don't think we're quite ready to move ahead on.
So bring back a rendering to the policy meeting on that property, a couple different renderings.
And look at both. We'll look at straight on the top of the hill versus curved at the bottom of it.
Yeah, my recommendation is exactly what Councilmember Baer's recommendation was. Is let's get all our ducks in a row. We've identified a particular area that we're close. We can do all that because it's going to take some engineering because it's a hill, right? You got to cut in. So whatever that is, then we can make a decision on.
And so is that do I need to be looking at any other locations or just look at that one? Pardon?
That one location.
And that's it.
So
Okay.
The only
And then we'll make a
property
decision if
we
we like it.
own, really, that's on Buford Highway, so.
We'll need to check in with GDOT since that's
Right.
their property we're actually on. It's their right of way.
Mr. Mayor, do you need a motion?
That we will need a motion.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to table this to the March policy meeting.
Second.
It's been motioned and second to table this issue to the March policy meeting. All in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand saying aye.
We got a
Opposing?
location. Thank you.
Councilmember Hickson? Thank you. Okay.
He's opposed.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Let the motion so state. Let's move to item 6, Norcross Gallery and Studios repairs. We've had a lot of different discussion concerning that.
Mr. Mayor, before we go any further in discussion, I'd like to table this topic until budget.
Okay.
Motion.
Sounds like we have a motion to table. Do we have a second?
Second.
Yep.
Can I ask for clarification? And she said table to
For the
the,
budget, to budget cycle, yes.
okay, do we have a date that we could put on that? Some type, like August?
I don't know, whatever the budget cycle is, it's the same with the pickleball thing, the basketball court.
If you want to say a date that is into the budget, then you're going to have a budget retreat in May, and what Dr. Beckles and I have talked about is we'll continue to work kind of a fine-tuned list of costs for this so that you have all the information you need when we get to the budget process. The budget process concludes the first week of August.
Okay. So you have your information. So a motion and second to table to the budget process beginning in May. Do all in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion passes. Okay. That was our last.
Number 7.
Number 7.
Sorry.
Okay. That was the last. That was the last agenda item. We do have one that was added from the table, and that was a mutual agreement for October 6th, intergovernmental agreement for the lease and real estate. Pat, would you lead us into that discussion?
Yes, sir. We have a lease agreement, IGA, with Board of Education for Mitchell and Price. We lease them Mitchell, and we lease from them Price. They're up in, I think it's June of 2004. They are interested in reclaiming their parking lot over there on Price. And for economic development, we're interested in getting Mitchell back. So the mayor negotiated a deal with the Board of Education, which I was able to confirm with the Board of Education attorneys. We circulated a document which is before you, and which we will, I would recommend that we sign. We can, it's no good unless the Board of Education signs it too. So it basically modifies the IGA and terminates the leases effective upon signature. So we need approval. Obviously, it's conditional upon them coming forward post hoc after our this vote approving this, and it's obviously subject to the Board of Education acceding to the agreement which their attorneys have already approved. So our vote would be primary, and their vote would be secondary, and I'm sure that we would learn of their vote. But I understand that this will proceed apace, and we'll get Mitchell back, and we can start working on it.
Very good. And thank you also, Pat, for your hard work and working with Lee on this. I know that y'all have gone back and forth several times.
There was a big mutual misunderstanding what we were talking about for a while, but we're able to get and William played a role in it, but the mayor was opposer, and that's what got done.
Thank you. So we have it on good authority that this will successfully go through the school board. Yes. So at this time, Chair will entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the IGA between the City of Norcross and Gwinnett County Board of Education.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Dr. Erling Beckles. Motion by Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem. Yeah. Do we have any objection to moving the question? Having heard none, all in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Thank you so much, Council. We certainly appreciate that. Now that was the last posted agenda item for tonight. I appreciate everybody's time, everybody being here. And thank you especially Councilmember Hickson. And I want to express from the council our condolences on your loss, your family loss. I know that losing a close family member is very is a very trying time for anybody. And this was Yarden's mother, Marilyn Lewis. And so we want to you express our condolences and your family, and to let you know that you're in our prayers.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for being here. Okay, now again, do we have a motion to adjourn at this time?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
So a motion and second to adjourn. Any discussion?
Yeah. Do we need to go to executive for real estate or legal?
Do we? I have
Or
no
personnel?
I have no.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the
Can.
same sign. Thank you.
Okay, Mr.
What?
Mayor, good job.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Let me unwind this a little bit. We do have the appraisal in on the spa property.
Right, it's been.
It speaks for itself.
Yeah, it speaks for itself. It's been delivered to council for purview. There's no action to be taken on it tonight.
Okay.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you. Good night. You want help with anything? Okay. Bye.
That was a great idea. I think the curve is slight.
It doesn't have to be in a straight line because.
I'm not gonna let the library get away from us, okay? I mean, I'm gonna keep that close.
Yeah.
I'll get your $2 million piece of property before you know it.
I appreciate it. I could turn it over to go ahead and do it by the county.
Well, I didn't know. I just assumed it was ours.
They signed the idea.
Right.
If I have to file a petition for specific performance, I can do that. But they're late, and I don't know why.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
No. Just, I'll prepare the date.
Right there.
Right. The appraisal.
That does not include monetary damages.
Wait, I thought it did. So
A war story. I got a real estate agent to try to get inside and say, I'm representing somebody that wants interested in buying your property. Can I take a look?